I want to ask you something before we get started. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you tried, no matter how disciplined you were, no matter how many systems you put in place, your brain just wouldn't cooperate? Like there was a version of you that you could almost reach, but something kept getting in the way. And if that sounds familiar, I want you to stay with me for the next 12 minutes because what I'm about to share with you is the thing I wish somebody would have told me 30 years ago. My name is Dr. Jamey Cunningham. I'm a health psychologist. I'm an Army veteran. I'm an author, and I am someone who has spent the better part of his adult life not understanding why his own brain worked the way it did. So this is that story. I enlisted in the Army during the Desert Storm era. I was young, I was driven, and I genuinely believed that discipline and willpower could solve any problem. My father was a workaholic, and I thought that if I was just a workaholic, I could outwork anybody. And of course, that's also what the military teaches you. Push through it, adapt, and overcome. And for a while that worked, or at least it looked like it was working from the outside. But on the inside, I was fighting something I didn't have a name for. My mind was constantly moving. I could hyper focus on things that interested me for hours and then completely fall apart trying to do something simple that honestly bored me. I was emotionally reactive in ways that I couldn't always control. I carried things, stress, anxiety, and the weight of experiences from service that I didn't know how to put down. I came home from the service because I was injured. I couldn't continue down that path, but I came home and I built a career. I owned a pain clinic. I owned and ran a mental health center, actually a couple of them. I had a very successful multi-million-dollar consulting practice. I operated inpatient and outpatient substance abuse treatment facilities. But from the outside, I looked like someone who had it all together, but I was struggling. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and nobody really knew about that. My own family didn't know about that. I struggled with anxiety, with my weight. I topped over 320, 325 pounds the last time I would weigh myself. And with the constant feeling that I was working twice as hard as everyone else just to keep up. And honestly, I had no idea. But the turning point came when I decided to go back to school to become a doctor and get my PhD in health psychology. I was not a traditional student. I was running a business. I was running businesses. I was managing large teams. I was dealing with everything life throws at you as an adult. And I remember sitting in a research methods class reading about ADHD in adults and feeling this strange sensation like somebody was describing me, not the cartoon version of ADHD, not the hyperactive kid who can't sit still, the adult version, the one that looks like disorganization and emotional dysregulation and chronic underachievement despite obvious intelligence, the one that gets misdiagnosed as anxiety or depression or just having a bad attitude. That was me. I graduated summa cum laude with my PhD, basically at the top of my class. And somewhere in the middle of all that research, I finally understood what was happening and what had been happening in my brain my entire life. I wasn't lazy, I wasn't undisciplined, and I wasn't broken. I had ADHD and nobody ever told me. That moment of understanding, that reframe changed everything, not because it gave me an excuse, but because it gave me a map. And when you have a map, you can finally figure out where the heck you're going. Now, I want to share with you the framework that changed my life, because this is not just my story. This is the science behind why so many people with ADHD struggle and why the conventional approaches so often fail. It's called the BioPsychosocial Model, and it is the foundation of everything I teach. My research papers, my dissertation focused on the biopsychosocial model. And I live that, I teach that, I understand that. When I do an analysis on somebody and work with a client, I'm looking at the biopsychosocial model. And here's the core idea. ADHD is not just a brain chemistry problem. It is not just a psychological problem, and it is not just an environmental problem. It is all three simultaneously. And they interact with each other in ways that most treatment approaches completely ignores. The medical community, my goodness, I had been in to see the doctors for years and years. They never put any of this stuff together. So the biological component is what most people focus on. It's what the medical industry focuses on. The dopamine dysregulation, the executive function challenges, the neurological difference in how the ADHD brain possesses motivation and reward. This is real and it matters, but the psychological component matters just as much. The stories you tell yourself about who you are, the shame that builds up after years of being told that you're not trying hard enough, you're not good enough, you just need to grow up, all those things. The emotional dysregulation that comes not just from brain chemistry, but from a lifetime of feeling different and not understanding why. And the social and environmental component is the one almost nobody talks about. The systems around you, the relationships that you have, the physical environment that you work and live in, the cultural messages about productivity and discipline that were never designed for a brain like yours. And when you treat one of these, when you only take medication or only do therapy or only reorganize your desk, you get partial results at best. When you address all three together, however, that is when real lasting change happens. That is what I spent 30 years learning, and that is why I wrote my book. And that is what my book is about. Now, this is the book that I'm talking about. ADHD and Emotional Mastery is the book that I wish that I had when I was 25 years old, sitting in the barracks somewhere, wondering why my brain wouldn't do what I needed to do. Now, this is not a textbook. It is not a list of tips. It is a complete framework grounded in the biopsychosocial model that walks you through understanding your specific ADHD profile, managing your emotional responses, building systems that actually work for your brain, and creating a life that feels like yours. It's 8 chapters with real strategies written by someone who's been in the research, in the clinic, and in the middle of the struggle personally. I'm also going to tell you something that most authors won't say. The book alone is not enough for everyone. Information is not transformation. That is why I also created a companion workbook, an action plan guide, and a full online course, because I know that some people need more than just the book. They need a structured path with accountability built into it. But the book is where it starts. And for a lot of people, it is genuinely life-changing. Now, I've also turned this into an audiobook too, because I know that a lot of people with ADHD is ironic because a lot of people with ADHD have a hard time reading a book. So if you buy the book, I'll give you the audiobook for free. The link to grab your copy and a free chapter is in the description below. Now, I want to tell you what this channel is going to be. Every week, I'm going to post a new video on a specific aspect of ADHD, specific aspect about emotional health or the biopsychosocial model, not generic advice, not recycled content from other people's books, but real strategies grounded in real science from someone who has lived this and spent 30 years working with people who are living it right now. Topics like why willpower is the wrong tool for an ADHD brain, how to manage emotional dysregulation in real time, what the research actually says about ADHD in relationships, how veterans and first responders experience ADHD differently, and how to build habits that stick, which is my other book, but we won't talk about that one right now. Stick when your brain is wired to chase novelty. If any of that sounds useful to you, if you are someone with ADHD or you love someone with ADHD, or you are a professional who works with this population, I would be honored to have you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notifications so that you don't miss a video. And if this video resonated with you, share it with one person in your life who needs to hear it. You never know whose life you might change by doing that. So I will see you on the next video. Thank you for being here. This is just the beginning.